Hello and welcome to another episode of Nathan Builds Robots. Today I'm going to be reviewing the brand new Bambu Lab A1. This is going to be the definitive review for the Bambu Lab A1, so I want you to make sure to watch this entire video before buying. Now there's a little bit of a mishap in the post office and they lost my review unit, but fortunately I was able to go down to Micro Center and pick one up on the first day of launch. Alright, so I picked up the Bambu Lab A1 kit. It came with the Bambu Lab A1, which is their brand new their brand new Bedslinger printer. I got a little confused because at one point they said no more Bedslingers, but now we have another Bedslinger out of Bambu Lab, but that's okay. And it came with this AMS Lite unit, which will allow me to do multicolor printing. Now I know there's going to be 100 other videos out on YouTube about this machine, and I would recommend you watch those videos if you want to see this thing print or be turned on or used or analyzed in any real way at all. In this episode, we're going to be taking a different approach to 3D printer reviewing. Now, this thing has been widely reviewed as the best printer ever, and I have to agree with them. It's the only printer that prints at 500 millimeters per second. No. Most of these print at 500 or 600 millimeters per second, so I mean, it's not the fastest, but it has the highest accelerations on a 3D printer. So this thing can accelerate at about 1G, so 10,000 millimeters per second squared, which is quite fast. Oh wait, no. Actually, any Core XY machine is going to be upwards of 20,000 millimeters per second squared. So whether it's this FlashForge Adventure 5M Pro, Bambu Lab's other products like the P1P, P1S, X1C, or Creality's machines, the K1, K1 Max, and I'm sure there's some others. They have roughly double the maximum acceleration of this machine, and we're going to see some new entries into the market next year that'll be 3 or 4 times faster in terms of acceleration, print speed, and volumetric flow rate. So, I mean, this isn't the fastest printer in the world, but at least you can have a large build volume. This 256 by 256 by 256 millimeter build volume is larger than most of the competition. If you look at printers like the Ender 3, this FlashForge Adventure 5M Pro, this Elegoo Neptune 4, I mean, those all have 220 by 220 build volume. Except, wait, this Soval SV07 is larger, so is that Creality K1 Max, and the Cheedy X Plus 3, and there's even bigger versions than that. We've got the Anycubic Cobra 2 Max, we have 2 different larger versions of this Elegoo Neptune 4, Creality makes some larger printers as well, and Cheedy Tech even makes a high-speed Core XY printer with faster speeds and accelerations, higher print temperatures. So, I mean, it's not the biggest printer. It's got a direct drive extruder with an all-metal heat break and a high-temperature hot end that can go up to, I believe, 300°C. But then again, so does this Ender 3 V3 KE, and this Creality CR10 SE, and the Creality K1, and basically every other machine on this table. So, what else does it have? I mean, dual-axis lead screws. Wait. You know what? Actually, every machine on the table also has dual-axis lead screws. Oh, I know. It's got a linear rail on the x-axis. Nobody's thought of that. Oh. Well, this budget Creality Ender 3 V3 KE has a linear rail. So does this CR10 SE. And come to think of it, that's becoming a more and more common feature nowadays. This Prusa Mark IV has linear rails on the x-axis. And the Elegoo Neptune 4 comes in an option where you have linear rails on the x-axis. All of the Bedslingers have metal rails on the x-axis. And even that little kit printer I built over there, the Ratrig V Minion, has all linear rails for every axis. So, you know, this is harder than I thought. Reviewing printers isn't easy. I was told that this was going to be the easiest printer to sell, and, well, I'm having trouble thinking of what makes it special. Okay, here's another one. It's got a PEI spring steel sheet. Wait, all of these have PEI spring steel sheets. Oh, man. Oh, I know. It has automatic bed leveling and auto Z-axis offset calibration. But, you know what? Actually, basically every printer on this table does, save for the Elegoo Neptune 4 over there. And, heck, even this Creality Ender 3 V3 SE over here, which is a super budget printer, costs less than $200. It has automatic Z-axis offset calibration and all those advanced features that you would want to make it an easy experience to unbox the printer and get started. So, I mean, I guess that's not special either. It's got excellent part cooling, but then again, what doesn't on this table? Oh, well, this CR10 SE doesn't have the best part cooling, and neither does this Prusa MK4, so they got them beat there. I know, it looks cool. It's aluminum. I mean, it does look really nice. Oh, it has a cloud functionality. Now, personally, I wouldn't use it for any type of serious research and development work because generally you want to keep your models private, but I can see why some people would want to use it, and so can all these other companies. I mean, Prusa's working on their cloud functionality, so is Creality, FlashForge, and I'm sure a couple others here. Well, it's got a larger touchscreen than the A1 Mini. This touchscreen is actually a little bit larger, and look at this, you can flip it around. It's a pretty cool little hinge system they've got there, so you can access that screen from a variety of angles. So that's pretty nice. But then again, I think every printer here has a touch screen as well. Most of them have even bigger touch screens. Oh yeah, there's one feature that you won't want to miss. It's called, what's it called? It's motor noise cancellation. Yeah, this printer has motor noise cancellation. So instead of having loud stepper motors, they're much quieter. And, you know, that's nice. You don't want to be listening to loud motors. But then again, every printer that I've reviewed for the last 3 years has silent stepper drivers. So what's the big deal about this active motor noise cancellation? Isn't it just silent stepper drivers? I might be confused here, but I mean, in terms of absolute quietest machine, some of the quietest machines I've tested include this FlashForge Adventure 5M Pro, as well as the Creality K1 Max. Since they have that full enclosure and they're sealing the noise inside the machine, I mean, it offers a pretty quiet experience. Come on, I'll think of something. Just give me a minute, okay? This printer is more proprietary than the others, so it's got more custom parts. It's going to be more difficult to find replacement parts, more difficult to service. If you take this thing apart, there's tons of screws. I mean, hopefully it never breaks, and if it does, it'll be challenging, but this thing's got the others beat in terms of number of proprietary parts. So, we got them there. Also, if you want to change nozzles, you can only get replacement nozzles and other parts from Bambu Lab. So I guess that's kind of an advantage. You can go to Bambu Lab's website and you know, find all your replacement parts there. That's cool. Oh, I know, here's a huge advantage. It comes with a detachable power plug. So you can actually unplug the power cord and replace it if you need a longer or shorter one. You know, the A1 Mini didn't have that and people complained, so now we have a detachable power cord. But then again, that was a standard feature on every other 3D printer before this. Okay, well, you know what? I'm sure I can come up with some reason how this printer is better than the others, and I definitely think you should buy one. I'm just struggling to come up with the reasons right now. Alright, well, let's cut the crap. In all honesty, this is a very good printer. If you've seen some other channels' reviews, you'll know that it has very good print quality. It's not perfect, but it's very good, especially for a Bedslinger. In terms of absolute print quality, the only thing that comes close are some of my modified Ender 3s, as well as this Prusa MK4. If you look at the out-of-the-box performance out of most Creality products, especially their lower-end line, they do sacrifice print quality a little bit. Their frames are a little bit wobblier than this A1's frame. Actually, the level of print quality that I've seen off of this machine competes more in the realm of Core XY printers. I think in general, Core XY printers have higher print quality because they have that more rigid frame and they're able to handle those print head forces from rapid accelerations much more easily. So you just end up with cleaner prints with less artifacts. And you get kind of similar performance out of this Bambu Lab A1. Now, aside from having improved print quality, this has a lot of the same cons that most Bedslingers have. They're kind of difficult to enclose, they're not really designed for higher temperature materials. You do have slightly diminished print quality because the frame is inherently a little bit wobblier than something like a rigid box like this Core XY printer. But it also shares a lot of the advantages of Bedslinger technology. Now, I've made a whole video about Bedslingers versus Core XY machines and why I believe that Bedslingers are better for the general audience. And A lot of the strengths of the Bedslinger are here too. You have better part cooling because there's no enclosure trapping that heat. You've got a lower MSRP because when you ship this thing, it folds flat and it takes up less space. It's just easier to ship than a large box like a pre-assembled Core XY machine. And it's easier to scale up to larger sizes because, again, with that shipping constraint, when you make a really large printer, it only grows in the X and Y dimension. The box gets really wide, but it's still flat, which is relatively inexpensive to ship. You can stack them up on a pallet. So we'll probably see this design extended out into the first large model of a Bambu Lab printer. So I'm thinking it'll probably be around 365 by 365. They'll just, make the extrusions longer, make this thing wider, and then boom, you've got a larger printer. But one of the most notable advantages of a Bedslinger is absent on this machine, and that's ease of serviceability. Now, if this printer doesn't break down, then you're not going to have to worry about the difficulty to service this machine, and Bambu Lab might prefer you just send it back to them, they'll repair it, and send you a new printer. But if you're out of warranty, or you've done any type of modifications or use that they don't approve of, and they say that voids your warranty, then you're going to have a hard time fixing this machine just because, it's just built a little bit differently. When you look at this Ender 3, this is using kind of open source, off-the-shelf hardware. Even this Prusa MK4, most of the motion system is kind of off-the-shelf hardware, and they've got a pretty good supply chain of replacement parts. One thing I kind of question about Prusa is that they're moving towards more proprietary electronics, and that kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, people want higher speeds, they want more features, they want more advanced bed leveling, so that's one way that you can do it. And that's the approach that we've seen a lot of printer companies take. You're getting more advanced tool heads, usually with their own little mini computer on the tool head itself, which lets you run a tiny little wire out to it instead of having to run like a large ribbon cable like you do on a lot of the older printers. Also, this printer is highly proprietary. Something that I like about printers like the Creality stuff or the Soval stuff is it's pretty off-the-shelf, simply designed stuff. And if you want to gut that thing and put a new mainboard in there, it's relatively easy. I wonder how difficult it would be to do the same thing on this Bambu Lab A1. The manufacturer doesn't have to support you doing your own random experimentations, and it's kind of not even in their interest at all for you to do that. But I do like having the option to upgrade and tinker with my machines. This machine, you're really not going to be able to do that even if you wanted to. One of the nice things about an open source basic Bedslinger like this Ender 3 is that you can put your own modifications on it, but if you're happy with the package you get out of the box with this A1, then, what's the point in being able to modify it? But basically, this is like offering a completely different user experience than what we're used to in 3D printing, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Personally, I think someone who's new to the hobby, who might not really be interested in engineering or learning about all the technology behind your 3D printer, I think this would be a great printer for those type of people. If I was going to college today and I had to pick a printer for me to use, I'd probably want to go with something a little bit more like this Ender 3, where I could take it apart and modify it and kind of adjust it to my exact use case. It's just that spectrum of highly technical, people want to do random weird stuff with their printers, and people who just want to print. There's this spectrum, and this Bambu Lab A1 is definitely on the people who just want to print side of the spectrum. Let's say you're an arts or design student. Something like this Bambu Lab A1 would probably be more to your liking because, your creativity and the stuff that you're working on is more on the side of like, what can I create? All right, now that I've created this, I need a machine that produces it. For me, I'm like this scrappy engineer doing these type of junkyard wars operations. I really like the ability to be able to pull parts off of this and put new stuff on, especially if I flash the firmware on this machine over to using stock Clipper, which I don't know if anyone's done that yet, but inevitably people do that with these Creality machines that are running Creality OS. Personally, I don't really like it. It provides kind of a dumbed down user experience that's easy to use, especially if you're doing a print farm. But for me, I like having full control over my machines, and I'd prefer the stock Clipper experience. One of the first mods that I want to do on this machine is put a large diameter CHT nozzle on here. And since it's got a really beefy extruder and hot end with like a really decent melt zone, I know that this thing is going to be able to push 70 to 120 cubic millimeters per second. And if I wanted to go really crazy, I could replace the entire hot end on this machine with something else. And I do have something else in queue that I'd like to put on here. But I could easily push that up over 100 cubic millimeters per second and just get some crazy, weird stuff going on with this machine. Now, I still think this A1 is a great piece of hardware. Bambu Lab does an excellent job with their engineering, and all of this stuff is very well designed and optimized for doing one thing, and that's 3D printing. On this Bambu Lab A1, this is gonna just do your standard type of printing really well. If you wanna print out benchies, if you wanna print out artistic stuff, if you wanna print out some types of mechanical parts, this is gonna be a really good printer for you. It's gonna deliver really good print quality right out of the box. It's just, you know, you get it and you use it. And to me, I feel like it kind of takes the fun out of 3D printing. I know there's people that want to start like an Etsy business and have a really productive machine. This might actually be a pretty good machine for that. But personally, I just like doing weird, crazy experiments, and that just matches up more with having a machine that's running real Clipper, not like a Bambu Lab version of, you know, their high-speed print firmware. So at the end of the day, would I recommend this machine? Absolutely. It's the best thing since sliced bread. But really, it is a good machine, and it's going to produce good prints. Bambu Lab has built a really solid reputation for making good products, and if you just want to get something in print, this thing's going to do a great job for you. The thing that a lot of people aren't realizing, though, is that all the competition has gotten significantly better over the last 2 years. Like, I watched a couple videos where they were like, oh yeah, this is way better than my Ender 3. They're comparing it to an Ender 3 V2, which is like a 3-year-old printer. You know, of course this thing's going to be better than a 3-year-old printer. What you should be comparing it to is something more like this Ender 3 V3 KE, which is a high-speed printer. It matches it in terms of speed, loses a little bit in terms of print quality. But in terms of speed, overall extruder output, and like quality of life and ease of use, it either ties or comes close to this Bambu Lab A1. So it's not as big of a difference as you would think it is. Now in terms of alternatives, what else could you get for the $399 MSRP that this is asking? It's actually $399 plus a little bit of shipping, so let's just say it's $420. For $420, you could get the non-pro version of this FlashForge Adventurer 5M. This is the FlashForge Adventurer 5M Pro, so it comes with a full enclosure. It's a really high-speed Core XY. But you can get the non-pro edition, which is basically the same thing, except they take the side panels off and the air filters and stuff. So it's still an extremely fast printer that can produce really high-quality prints. I mean, that would be a really tough choice between the FlashForge Adventurer 5M non-pro and this Bambu Lab A1. Now, I think you'll be able to get faster and higher quality prints out of the FlashForge Adventurer 5M, but you're not going to have multi-material capability, at least for now. So, you know, that might make the decision for you. But in terms of absolute print speed, one of these Core XY machines is going to be faster than the stuff that we get from Bambu Lab. Initially, when Bambu Lab launched, one of their main claims to fame is really high-speed printing. Nowadays, there's a lot of printers that are actually printing faster than Bambu Lab machines, and Bambu Lab has not really increased their speed at all since they released their first printer almost 2 years ago, versus everyone else has been really participating in a speed race. What else could you get for $420? Well, you could get this Elegoo Neptune 4, or maybe some of the larger versions of it. You can get the Elegoo Neptune 4 Plus, which would be, I believe, well within your budget there. And it's actually 320 by 320, so that's a massive build volume, way bigger than what you get on here. It's a Bedslinger, still similar high speeds, and running Clipper, so you can get a lot of control over it. I think that would be a really fun printer to use. It's not going to be as clean of a user experience as what you get on this Bambu Lab A1. There's going to be a little bit of manual tuning and bed leveling and stuff, but you're still going to be able to get amazing prints off of it, and it's going to be much larger for a similar price. On the Creality front, I guess the two that would be closest to being comparable to this is going to be this Ender 3 V3 KE. Now this is a little bit of a cheaper, lower print quality machine, slightly smaller build tray, so it's 220 by 220 instead of 256 by 256, but I still think these two machines are very comparable. Despite the Ender 3 V3 KE, if you can find it on sale, it's probably going to be around $250 or $260. I mean, that's significantly cheaper. I would say it's almost half the price, but that's not exactly true. It's significantly cheaper than this A1 though. So you're looking at a $280 price tag. You've got a lot of the same features: fast print speed, high flow nozzle, high print temperature capable. You can get it to run Clipper. It's running Creality print as stock, which is basically Clipper. It's got automatic setup and tuning, so you don't have to do any kind of tweaking to get it working. Same with this FlashForge Adventurer 5M line. You don't have to do any kind of stuff other than plug it in and let it do its self-calibration. And then you got this Prusa MK4. This is not in the same price category as the A1, but you know, they're pretty similar in terms of features. If you find a Creality K1 on sale, you could actually get the Creality K1. That's a high-speed Core XY printer from Creality. I mean, it has relatively good print quality. I think they don't have quite as good of quality assurance as the A1s, so you might have some kind of build quality issues. But I've heard from a lot of people in the comments that they're very happy with their Creality machines. There's the Bambu Lab P1P, which personally I just wouldn't get at this point in time. Either go all the way up to getting the Bambu Lab P1S or cut your budget way back and get this Bambu Lab A1. This is offering like 90% of the capabilities of the P1P, but at 60% of the price. So definitely a much bigger fan of this machine rather than the P1P. The P1P, since it's lacking the side panels, you're losing a lot of the benefits of having a Core XY machine. Personally, I really like all of these printers on my desk, except this CR10 SE. I think it's a little bit weird. Someone told me I should give it another shot and loosen the belts a little bit. Maybe I'll try that out. But, you know, everything that's touching the table, I really enjoy using all of these printers, and even a fair amount of the printers out front. They're just, you know, there's so many good options nowadays. And I don't want people to get blinded by what they're seeing about, you know, Bambu Lab A1 being the best printer ever. I mean, I do think it is the best printer ever for a lot of people, but there's a lot of good printers out there. There's a lot of good stuff from Creality, Soval, Elegoo, you know, Prusa. Prusa's a little bit expensive for what it is, but, you know, it does offer a good experience. So, Bambu Lab A1. It's a great machine, very well optimized. There's a video by Vector 3D. He did a full teardown of this machine so you can see some of the internals. The engineering that they've put into this thing is pretty amazing, honestly. And I say that as an engineer, like, you know, the type of stuff that they're doing here is really moving hardware design forward in the 3D printing arena. Very cool stuff. Some highlights that I just want to point out is the quick change nozzle system. That's really easy to swap out. The frame that they're using is utilizing a lot of sheet steel, which is one of the cheapest ways to fabricate things on a large scale. And the most surprising thing when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's crazy, is the heated bed. So when you take this heated bed off, you can see they're using permanent magnets. These are rare earth magnets, and they're all embedded into this cast aluminum little bed surface. You know, they had to invest in tooling to produce this, but it's a really, really cool design. They're using a heating element that's more similar to something that you'd see like on a stove top or an electric kettle. So it's just like a heating element that they run the AC power through, and that directly generates the heat, instead of using a PCB, which, I mean, that was always kind of a questionable way to do things. PCBs have an upper limit as to how high you can make the temperature. Also, it's kind of an expensive process since you're chemically dissolving and depositing copper, which is more difficult to do than just taking a heating element off the shelf, bending it into shape, and sticking it into a cast aluminum base. So this is a really cool innovation from Bambu Lab. They do a lot of cool stuff, so definitely got to give credit where credit's due there. The other thing is that I think a bed using this construction is going to be lighter and cheaper to produce, and also it's probably going to have a higher upper temperature limit than other similarly designed printer beds. And you can just like crank them out really fast, since when you have a die cast setup, you can just like absolutely just be pounding out parts one after another. I think Bambu Lab is geared up to produce these things in the millions. This is going to be their first real mass market printer. I think a lot of you would actually enjoy this machine. And I want to do some comparisons between this machine and some others. You're sacrificing basically any sense of moddability. You kind of just get what they give you. In that way, it's a lot like an Apple product. I have a MacBook and an iPhone, and those things are not upgradable at all. I have a PC at home that I can add extra storage, extra RAM, do all sorts of weird programming things on it, like install, you know, a new operating system if I wanted to. On my MacBook, it's like locked down hardware and software that just does what I need it to do in a very effective way. So in that way, I'm really thinking that Bambu Lab is aiming to be the Apple of 3D printers. And, you know, look at this aesthetic design. This really looks like it's taking design cues from Apple. So they've got this, this silverish aluminum color with these kind of square, rounded frames. I mean, I see what you're doing there, Bambu. It's not a bad idea. So I don't know what else to say. It's a cool machine. There's other cool machines that you can get to, but it's definitely one of the cool options that's out right now. And I don't think you'd be disappointed if you pick one of these up. I think it delivers exactly what it claims to. Just a really high quality printer, no messing around experience. Remember to let me know in the comments below what you want to see this printer face up against. It's kind of similar in price and size to a lot of the stuff on the table here. So if you could help me out by telling me what you want to see it fighting in maybe a next episode of 3D Printer Fight Club, then that would be greatly appreciated. And remember, in 3D Printer Fight Club, they fight dirty. So we'll see how that turns out. Also, if anyone watched my live stream yesterday where I drove down to Micro Center, I unboxed this on the streets of Chicago, and then I drove back to Micro Center and tried to run it in their lobby before eventually getting kicked out by the manager. I had a really good time filming that, and I really appreciate everyone who dropped by to join me for that adventure. All right, well, I'll see you in the next episode. Enjoy your 3D printing, everyone. Goodbye.